And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. The Fire Services Department at First Nations Emergency Service Society assists BC First Nations communities to increase their overall level of fire protection. Statistics indicate that fire occurrence, incidents, and deaths are substantial in First Nations communities. We begin part 2 of the special show with Fire Services Manager Nathan Combs.
Right out of high school, I joined the Gittimax Volunteer Fire Department and got the training there and kind of got me interested in it. And then I did a bunch of years with the wildland firefighting as well. So yeah, just kind of right out of high school, got into it. There's a lot of requirements, and so in order to keep moving up in the firefighting, you got to do all the training. And I ended up in Texas doing my 1001 there. Yeah, it was August, it was hot, 117 degrees, and we're doing live fire. And yeah, it was a big eye-opener, a big city. I was flying into these huge airports. So yeah, it took some commitment for sure, but well worth it in the long run. So if you're applying for jobs in the fire field, they're gonna want you to have the 1001 and 1002 training kind of coming into that to get on with the career fire department. So it's crucial to have. Well, just on paid on call, I just had a pager in my hand, so I could be home. And then I was at the full-time hall as well, and those guys did shift work. And so if you're a full-time firefighter in the big cities or here in Terrace or Kitimat, Rupert, they're doing shift work. After the city, I wanted to come back home. And so I got a job locally working with all the Gitxsan First Nations as their training officer. So I was able to go into all the volunteer halls in the Gitxsan Nation and help them out and train them, help with recruitment, stuff like that. So yeah, I really feel it's important to share that knowledge and bring it back home. Yeah, I've been working with them for a few years on a casual basis, doing fire prevention talks throughout the province. And last summer, with all the fires, they were looking for strike team members. So got a hold of Finesse and I went and helped them with the wildfires last summer, and then started with them full-time this year. I am that guy going into my family and friends' house is like, where's your smoke alarm? Do you have a working smoke, extinguishers? So a lot of times they say no, and I'm saying, okay, go get a fire alarm, get a fire extinguisher. So yeah, wherever I go, I'm always bugging people to, and it's life safety stuff, and it's a really important stuff. And that's what we're doing here today too with these youth. Are really putting that in their minds that, the little things they can do to make their houses safer. So this is our second boot camp for me anyways, and our first one was in North Vancouver, went really well. We had 22 students. Now we're in Thornhill and we have 14. So yeah, it's great, and we want to do, for a year moving forward in all communities throughout British Columbia. One of the important things, as training these youth, is getting into their gear really fast, turnout gear it's called, and so we're trying to get them to do it within 60 seconds. So it's day 2, they've got the hang of things and they're getting their gear on pretty quick, so I took the challenge and put my gear on with them as well. So yeah, have lots of fun with them. Finesse comes into, say, this community, Thornhill. We have 14 youth here. We want to show them that firefighting is a potential career for them, and also our communities need volunteer firefighters too. If they're going to stick around in the community and get jobs locally, they can volunteer at our fire halls and all through our nations. And if they want, they can become full-time career firefighters on the streets of Vancouver right? So just want to kind of open their eyes and let them know that that's an option for them. Just seeing the transferable life skills is really cool to see from day one. You know, some kids are really shy, they're not talking very much, and by the day 2 or 3, everyone's high-fiving, they're having a great time, they're learning, you know, teamwork, communication, problem solving, and they kind of leave here feeling empowered. So that's really awesome to see, and we want to continue.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Wildfires are one of the biggest threats to First Nations communities in British Columbia, and one way communities can protect themselves is with a wildfire mitigation funding program. These programs blend traditional knowledge and Western science practices to come up with really effective solutions at reducing the amount of burnable materials in forests surrounding communities. By removing dead trees, woody debris, and low-hanging branches, a wildfire has a lot less material to burn, and therefore the wildfires are a lot less intense, making it a lot easier for wildfire suppression crews to suppress that wildfire. Combined with cultural burning and fire-smarting homes, it is an effective and proven method to increase your community resiliency towards wildfire. Finesse can help with planning, education, and access to funding, which can be used to hire local crews to do the work. Wildfire mitigation works. Funding is currently available for communities, and Finesse is here to help. Contact Finesse today, and let's work together to make our First Nations communities more wildfire resilient.
Thank you for staying with us. All mines in BC are required to have emergency response capabilities. This requirement made BC mining industry the worldwide model for implementation of health and safety practices. Let us return to the conversation as Northwest Regional Fire Services Officer Chris Turner shares how working at Bruce Jack Mine led him to a career choice in firefighting.
I'm a member of the Gitxsan Nation from Gittimax. I was born in Hazelton, grew up between there and Smithers. As a young child, you're always thinking firefighter or police officer. My father was a member of the Gittimax Volunteer Fire Department. I just remember seeing all those things when I was growing up. They went to the firefighter competitions back in the 90s with Finesse and did pretty well with those to the provincials and nationals. So I just remember that kind of sparking the passion in me, and now here I am today. I've been a member of the Smithers Fire Department for going on about 4.5 years now. I was also a member of the Bruce Jack Mine Rescue Team for a few years. It was more so it's a volunteer position that I have in Smithers. So yeah, just putting in the hours with them, doing the training, getting out in the community and doing the events with the community, and opens up a lot of opportunities for getting into the fire industry. It kind of started when I was in Bruce Jack on the mine rescue team. One of my chiefs came up, and he worked for Raven Rescue also at the time, and did some of the emergency courses with us, with rope rescue, ice rescue, and our live fire training. So at that time I was living in Hazelton. When I moved to Smithers, my chief mentioned I should apply, so I just put in an application and went through the interview process. You can join a team when you work up there, and they put you through a bunch of different training with surface operations and the underground mine side of rescue work. Adrenaline's pumping right away when the pager goes off and you're getting to the hall in a safe manner. You're getting there, you're getting your gear on as quickly as you can and onto the truck, and then you're following the officer's orders and trying to stay calm as you can and cool and collected, and then you get out there and try to dial in all the adrenaline that's going through you. So the officer in command will assign tasks to everyone, and you just follow your chain of command. You do what you're assigned to do, and then hopefully everything goes smooth. If your house is on fire, you have animals in there, you don't want to go back in if you're out and you're safe. You just stay in a safe meeting location, make sure you call 911. Emergency services will come and they'll rescue whoever needs rescuing. Your escape planning is crucial for wherever you reside. It's good to work through it with your family, set up a safe meeting place outside. arrange what you're going to do in case of an emergency, like if you got to crawl low below the smoke or if you have to hunker down in your room. But that's all part of emergency planning, is also having your working smoke alarms, so you can be alerted if it's during the night when you're sleeping, so you can get out of there as quickly as you can. Generally they're showing up, they're a little shy at first and not as eager as they are, but by the end of like day one and day two that we're at today, everyone's pretty eager. They're fired up to do all of the little tasks that we're doing, and yeah, it's just awesome to see that they're kind of growing that passion in just such a short amount of time. Hopefully it sparks some interest to get involved within their communities and volunteer on their departments, maybe start as a junior and then work their way up. Ultimately, they're going to be our future moving forward. They're going to be the future firefighters and people we're going to call upon when an emergency situation arises. So we want to get them early, spark that passion and get them involved. And that's been an ongoing process for me within the Smithers Fire Department, but I'm constantly learning and taking new courses and expanding my knowledge. You can never stop learning when it comes to fire services, so I'm constantly just looking for opportunities to expand my knowledge for sure. With my position, I'll just be in the Pacific Northwest helping fire departments and communities on reserve with training and public education, so looking forward to get out there. Like I said, it's been 4 months, but I've been slowly getting out. And
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
We are currently situated on the lands of the Nikamin Indian Band. They've been a very proactive participant in Strategic Wildfire Prevention Initiative, and they have been actively taking steps to ensure their safety, their wildfire resiliency for the last 10 years. And I think the proof is in the pudding today. I believe that all these treatments around their community certainly mitigated against the threat to the community during that wildfire of July 19th.
It did. I'd say it's like almost a city block away from housing. So that's how close it came into. But that's where it held and stayed right after the management that happened. So when it was coming over the hill over there, and that's where I was thinking, okay, this is where it's going to stand the test of time in regards to, was it done right? Is everything cleaned up properly or not? Thankfully, a lot of the ground stuff was done, so it didn't eat along there. And with the trees moved away from the housing, you know, a lot of that factor helped out too.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Whether it's breaking news or on TV drama, you'll see them. EMS personnel rescuing victims of an accident or caring for a patient with a medical emergency. The majority of EMS responders are either certified at the EMT or paramedic level. Let us return to the conversation as fire service instructor Matthias Ballantyne shares why he became a firefighter.
Yeah, I grew up in Manitoba. Yeah, went to fire college back there and got my 1001, which is your basic firefighting courses, and then I also got my paramedic license back there. I went to university for Aboriginal governance, but that wasn't for me, so I kind of branched out looking for other lines of work, finding the Manitoba Emergency Services College. So back there you need to be a paramedic as well as a firefighter to get on to any city. I think it's different here in BC, but I did my schooling there and then applied around and came out to British Columbia. A lot of people don't realize that's probably the biggest part of our job is first aid calls. So if you see an ambulance on scene, usually the fire truck's there first. So it's very crucial to be trained up in first aid and paramedic if you can. Well, for any large department, you kind of need this as padding your resume, if you will. So having your either first aid, paramedic, your 1001s, that's things that these departments look at before hiring. So yeah, it just helps you kind of get your best foot forward. First call, that would have been back in northern Manitoba, which is where I started in Thompson. Definitely nerve-wracking, you know, you want to do your best, but it was definitely a medical call. Not as glamorous as you think, but it gets your blood rushing for sure. I like the ocean, the mountains. I enjoy getting up for snowboarding, hiking, and wanted to work around what I like to do. So yeah, I applied out here. It was, yeah. I think there was about over 1,000 applicants for 60 positions. So it was quite the process. You have to do your written exams, into your physicals, into interviews, and then chief's interview is final. So it was probably about 6 months of interview process to get on the job, but well worth it. I'm lucky to be at a fire hall right now where we do a lot of training for the new guys. So we're always putting the new guys through their paces, making sure that they're able to perform, but you also want to have a good example and show them that you can also do that. So yeah, I try to get my hands on the tools and stay trained and fit as much as possible. Yeah, it's definitely a real big thing. Some people overlook it, but I like to try and stay fit. Cardiovascular strength is just as important as physical strength, so it's good to, have your cardio up so that if you're heading up a flight of stairs, you don't get gassed out right away and you're able to get to whatever call you're attending. Well, I sought it out. Coming from Manitoba, I knew that there was these sorts of opportunities for Indigenous people, so I kind of looked up First Nations emergency services about 8 or 9 years ago is when I first joined, and just applied, and yeah, it's been a great ride. To Vancouver, I'm in my 9th year, and the same with Finesse. I had to take a little break from Finesse when I was working downtown Vancouver. It gets a little busy, so I'm just finally getting back into it and yeah, enjoying it. I want to kind of show that this is an option for Indigenous youth. It's something you don't think about. You think of post-secondary like university or college. A lot of people don't know that emergency services college is also an option. So if you're an Indigenous youth, it's a good avenue to look into. So yeah. I don't have a lot of experience with volunteering. Like I said, I'm a career firefighter, so I do that as my full-time job, but there's definitely no age limit for applying. Yeah, right now our shift schedule is a 24-hour shift schedule, so we're at the hall for 24 hours, and then you get 48 hours away, another 24 on, and then you're 4 days off. So in my spare time, I come and help out with Finesse. Oh, it's where we get all of our training done. It's a lot of camaraderie. It's hugely important. This is a career where being a part of a team is huge. So if you're into sports before, it really pays off now that you can work in a team environment. This would be my 4th, I think. So I did some back in 2014, 15. I think we went to Seabird Island. We went to House It back then. Like Nathan was saying, we recently did one in North Van, which is good. So hopefully just keep this rolling. We've seen some that I teach the exterior ops program. So it's good to see the youth kind of want to get engaged in their own community. So going in and helping them learn exterior ops is it's rewarding for sure. Exterior ops training is for a volunteer fire department that don't make entrance into a building. So it'd be teaching the community how to fight fires strictly from the outside. Oh, I would highly recommend it. It's been the highlight of my life for sure. So I've really enjoyed it, and it's paying off, giving back to communities, also keeping yourself fit like we said, and yeah, it's just been a great job. I would highly recommend.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Everybody follow up with something like this because it doesn't stop with your MOU agreement that you have with your neighbor. It works with yourself too. The amount of debris that you have around the house, the indigenous trees that are flammable or not flammable, right? You have to know what you're planting around your house. I hand out the accomplishments and handshakes to the others that did the job because it was them that doing the job that got it done here. So it's like one of the big congratulations to those workers and Finesse for providing the funding, and Wildland BC also gave us a grant to do the off-reserve on the Crown land to do that preparation.
It's been an excellent example of interagency collaboration, and many people pulling together in the same direction have made a very significant impact in this instance.
You don't need to have it all figured out today to be successful tomorrow. By learning about your strengths, you can start discovering the best areas to look at more closely. Who knows, you might find several areas that strike your interest, or you may uncover one path that fits you. In this final segment of Open Connection, Regional Service Officer Dan Heathran shares his career path.
Well, I was actually born in Quesnel, here in British Columbia, and then my parents, we moved there. and I did elementary school there, and we moved back to Quesnel and finished high school. We lived so far up north, it was, I would have had to be shipped to Whitehorse to go to elementary school, which was 290 some miles away. So Mom and Dad didn't want to split us up like that. So I narrowed it down to 3. Actually, in school, I did the work experience program, which consisted of writing an exam and doing an aptitude test, basically. And as a result of that, I ended up doing a week with the ambulance service, riding along with them. And we did quite a few calls in that week. And they actually asked me to stick around. So after school and weekends, I'd go and just volunteer my time. And the ambulance station backed onto the fire station. So I got to know those guys really well. So that's kind of how it started, because I've been in emergency services now for 43 years total. More safety orientated would be the best way to put it, and more high tech. New stuff is being invented for safety firefighters every day, and some of it works and some of it works very well. And most departments will incorporate that in just to keep their people safe. In the Okanagan, actually, and I had volunteered for my local community fire department. I applied, I went in, I was interviewed. I got a phone call saying I was accepted, but I would have to go through the recruit fire training, which was out of Vernon at the time. So through night school and weekends, we did that over a 6-week period. And that's when the bug hit me and it stuck. And I've been pretty much doing it ever since. Mostly all the Okanagan. I just moved up to the Caribou here 3 years ago for another job. And when Finesse started hiring, I saw that. I've worked with a few of the people from Finesse over my years, and I made the phone call and applied, and I got the job. I'd have to say the Glen Rosa fire. My partner and I, we got very close, and it was an interface fire. Our radio wasn't working. We were not aware it was not working, and we made the decision. We had an escape plan. We made the decision to pull ourselves out. I'd say that's probably the scariest time I've ever had. Because I'd worked with the 2 guys in charge of Finesse for a while, or around them for a while. And I've always worked around First Nations my whole life. When I grew up in Beaver Creek, I was the only non-Indigenous child in the school. So it's just what I know. I would very much like to see them try. It's very rewarding. There's a lot of work involved. There's a lot of school involved, but it's probably one of the most rewarding jobs on the planet because you get to help people all the time. And that's all races. You just get to help people, and it makes you feel really good at the end of the day. If you have a passion for it, just keep doing it until you get it. If you have friends that are firefighters, they'll help you. All firefighters want to see a new generation of firefighters coming up. And hopefully they're going to be smarter, safer, and better. It was shocking. On day 1, first morning, we could barely get them to say their name. Partway through the morning, we did a communication exercise with 2-way radios, where one group would tell another group how to lay out some rope and some stuff so that they were clear with their communication. And that was literally an icebreaker for them. The end of the day, yesterday, we asked how many of them wanted to become firefighters, and we hadn't done any of the fun stuff that we've been doing today. And over half of them put their hands up, and they were excited and thrilled. This morning when they come in, it was hard to get their attention because they're talking so much. They just opened up to each other, and they're becoming a team, which is really great to see.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.